Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today we are going to look into the use of artificial intelligence in big data analysis and analytics in clinical research. Artificial intelligence is our softwares that we are using. They are using algorithms in order to process, I would say, different tasks, and those tasks may be related to calculations, into recognition, into organization. It may be based on just doing search on internet, but of course the use of AI is not just limited to what I told you, and we are doing more and more research and we are creating more and more applications in AI. This is why I'm not going to give you any example of an artificial intelligence application that we have so far. That's because they will keep changing. But I'm going to go over the overall review of what we can do with artificial intelligence in managing the data. And here I'm using the word big data because we have lots of data, and these are different types of data that we have when we are doing clinical research. So first of all, allow me to talk about clinical research, where this is a set of activities in order to test a hypothesis. So when we are looking into the pharmaceutical field, so this course today is dealing with the transformative potential of big data analytics and artificial intelligence in the realm of clinical research. So we are going to go over clinical research, and in each slide I'm going to also go over what artificial intelligence can be applied to the to performing any of those tasks related to clinical research. So let's first go over artificial intelligence in the healthcare market. Here you are having different bars from year 2021 and you have the estimation up to 2030, where we are talking about the market size in billions of US dollars related to the applications that we use. We're going, of course, to buy or use in the healthcare market. Of course, it's not just clinical research. This is designing of molecules, designing of products. This is testing the products. This is also going over the manufacturing of the products. It's also distribution, labeling, packaging, registration as well as, of course, sales and marketing. So as you see, this industry is booming. I'm talking about the artificial intelligence. And we see more and more sectors or industries that are using artificial intelligence. Even now, we are already there. So what I'm always saying to everyone, to my students, is that AI is here to stay. We will need, of course, to learn more about different ethical and functional implications of artificial intelligence, but we cannot ignore that. This is a tool that will not replace us. This is a tool that will help us to decide faster, to decide maybe in a more accurate way, to giving us some information to broaden our vision, because as you know, not everyone is perfect and we may always miss some points. By using AI, depending on which database or which data this AI has access to, we will be able to get accurate information, and of course in a neutral way, so that it's not, of course, is advertisement free, of course, but we can always rely on that data in order to make decisions ourselves. So let's go over the role of clinical research in the drug development process. So the drugs that you are using now, up to 70% are coming from plants, where we extract the molecule, we characterize it, and then we try to make it in a synthetic way in a lab. That's because when we are having plants, we are not sure about the exact dose of the pharmaceutical ingredient that we may find in the plant. Okay, for example, if I talk about aspirin, aspirin was first, I would say, found in the willow tree's leaves. And in 19th centuries, we were giving, I would say, up to 300-400 grams of willow tree leaves to a pregnant population who were having some pain, of course, during the delivery, and they were just chewing those leaves, and they were getting some analgesic, I would say, effect from those willow tree leaves. However, we understood that nature, even if it's, I would say, great and it's I would say, wonderful, it cannot continuously giving us the exact dose of a pharmaceutical ingredient in any of those plants or insect neither. So we went over the type of industry that we now call the pharmaceutical industry, where what it does is that it will now look into different molecules coming from the nature, of course. We may also make some synthetic molecules that are very close to the molecules that are in the nature, but we still need to make them synthetically in a lab so that we will be able to associate a dose and the effect of the dose with a sign or symptom of a disease. So everything starts from here, where we are having a few molecules, and we know that they are interfering with some pathways, some cellular functions in our body. Now, what we do is that we are going to go over the phase that we see here on the left side, which is called discovery and preclinical. This is where we discover those molecules. We make them more stable. We will create different formulations. It may be in powder. We can then put them in capsules. It may be, we may not even have that molecule stable as a powder. We will need to have it stable in a liquid formula. So we are going to have another formulation which is liquid. So now you see that you have different formulations of drugs. It will depend on our ability to make them stable or not. Now we also have, again, the exact amount of the drug that we make. We know the dose. So from there, we cannot create tablets with exactly 2 milligram of the molecule per tablet, 4 milligram, 10 milligram, but we have a dose. It's a measure. So now we can associate that dose or the measure again with, I would say, the treatment of a symptom of a sign in a disease. Don't forget the example that I gave you about aspirin, where if you would like to take 200 milligram of aspirin, you may have to chew 300 gram of leaves. Imagine that you would like to have 1 gram of aspirin. Are you going to chew 1 kilogram of leaf every day? It doesn't make sense. This is why we are working on the pharmaceutical, I would say, compounds, and we bring them all from the nature, but we would like to be able to control the dose so that we have enough dose, not I would say too much neither, because we may also again be exposed to an overdose, and of course to be able to build on this, I would say, the molecule. And for this we will now test the molecule in animals. Okay, you may say it's ethical or not. Obviously we have ethical procedures as well in order to do animal studies. You may also think that, okay, we don't want to test our drug on animals. Okay, but then are you willing that for the first time we test the drug on humans? It's not ethical neither. Okay, so what we do is that we are going to use animal species in order to test the efficacy and safety profile of the drug. So we start giving a very low dose of the drug that we know, a known dose, based on a protocol that we will write. We will then have 3, 4, for example, okay, 4 or 5 different groups of animals. We give to each group 1 milligram, 2 milligrams, 4 milligrams, 6 milligrams of the drug that we are studying. We are now going to look into the effect of the drug depending on the disease model, because we may find some diseases, of course, in animals that are very, I would say, very similar to what we have in humans. For example, diseases related to the central nervous system, memory, for example, or sleep, for example. And we are going to test the drug in those animals to see if the drug or at a specific dose is going to affect their sleeping cycle, for example, or their memory. Okay, and of course, it can go far by going over even different diseases as well. Once we have established the effect of the drug on a sign or symptom in an animal, we will also look into its side effects that we call adverse drug reactions, because we may be able to see that in a rat the memory is much better after a treatment, but we are also looking into the vital signs. Maybe the animal is now having a fever, for example. This is an adverse drug reaction. Maybe the animal is not walking well. We don't want this to happen. Okay, so we are going to test the drug first in different species of animals, looking into the efficacy of the drug as well as its side effects that we call adverse drug reactions, and we write them down in a document that we call investigator's brochure, that later when we go to the market we will call that in Canada a product monograph. Perfect. So now we are going to switch to human experimentations. We call those clinical trials, because we already passed animal studies and we have a relatively good idea about the efficacy and safety of the product. Now we are going to go over phase 1 studies, where we will look into which dose may be toxic for humans. And we are now going to write down on a piece of paper, of course not a paper, but in the results of the study, that we cannot go beyond a certain dose, because human subjects are going to again experience some adverse drug reactions that we don't want them to experience. We're also going to look into different potential adverse drug reactions or side effects, and we will again write them down in a document. And for each study we are going to have a protocol that we follow. We will then ask our patients to come at each visit depending on the protocol. We will go over several tests that we are going to do for each patient based on a protocol. And then at the end of the study, that may be 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years, or more or less, we are going to write down a clinical summary report for the clinical trial. This is for phase 1, where we are going to end up having the safe dose that we can use. I would say the drug for a type of disease. Now, we also look into the pharmacology of the drug in phase 1, where we look into what the body does to the drug. So here we talk about absorption, distribution in different organs or tissues, and then metabolization, and then excretion of the drug, so from your body to outside of your body. This is the excretion. So now, based on the information that we have, and we know the safe dose that we need to use in humans, we will then go to phase 2, where in phase 2 we are going to expose people with the given disease, a disease that we already designed the molecule or the drug a few years before in the discovery and preclinical phase. And then now we are going to expose patients into several doses, safe doses, and we are going to look into the signs and symptoms. And once we will have those signs and symptoms, we will now be able to decide which dose is really the optimal dose. Then in phase 2, since we don't have too many patients, maybe 100 or 200 patients, statistically we will need to test the product in more people. This is why we do exactly the same phase 3 with several types of protocols, but we will do it in phase 3 where we have much more patients. Okay, usually minimum, the standard ICH standard is about 1,800 patients, but we have companies that will have phase 3 studies at 8,000 people. Even I remember one time WHO did a study that was involving 38,000 women. So based on that data that we get, that big data, we are now going to be facing to lots of data. So now we may look into vital signs of our patients. We are going to look into specific measures. We are going to look into the signs and symptoms that we are measuring or observing. We are going to have 8,000 patients. We are going to have lab tests, urine tests, MRIs, so many different variety, I would say, of tests that we are going to have. And this is going to be over 2-3 years, maybe, of a study. Okay? Again, it may be up to 2-3 years. We have studies that are the last 14 years, 15 years. These are phase 4 studies on the market. So coming back to what I'm telling you here is that now you see that we are dealing with a big data, huge data. And as you can see, we need to have software. So far, we have been using softwares, different types of softwares and statistics as well. We were using softwares for even designing molecules, making them more stable as well. So we were okay. However, with the arrival of artificial intelligence, all of these activities have not been changed, but they have been, I would say, put in a mode that which is much more an acceleration mode, and we can really, again, look into much more data, and we can do much better and accurate analysis. And that's what we are going to see in the next slides. So finally, after phase 3, when we are going to establish the safety and efficacy and the quality of our drug, we will be able now to submit a package that we are going to prepare, and this is the job of people who work in the regulatory affairs in the pharmaceutical fields. We are going to prepare packages, submission packages, and we are going to, again, submit them to Health Canada if you would like to register your product in Canada. If you would like to register your drug in the US, you will have to go through the FDA website, all of the regulatory requirements, and here we are talking about regulatory documents and standards that are not all identical, but to some extent similar in between two countries. But don't forget again that in Canada we are dealing with Health Canada. In the US we will dealing with, and the US market we are going to deal with or work with FDA. So now, what is the role of AI in clinical research? So here we can look into, again, regulatory submissions. For the products, we need to produce trial master files. These are just a set of documents that we have to prepare during the clinical trials, and we will need to keep them because we will then need them to add them into the registration application package that we will send to the regulatory agencies such as Health Canada or EMA or FDA. So then we can also use AI for the data analysis. Okay, so here how it works. This is by looking into, again, databases, looking into choosing the best, the optimal statistical analysis. We can also do interim analysis. So in the middle of the study, we are having a few patients, but not all of them. But still, we can have some ideas about the efficacy and safety of the product that we are testing for now. We can also look into the pharmacovigilance, which is a science of collecting, assessing, reporting, and preventing side effects, or in a scientific term, adverse drug reactions. We can use AI in order to retrieve all of these different adverse drug reactions and then to classify them in a faster way, and then, of course, into an even more, I would say, more accurate way, and then it will be able to give us some trends. For example, we may see that for a specific drug XYZ, for example, uh, we do have again many people who are getting fever, many people who are losing their memory, etc. And here with the artificial intelligence, we will be able to look into the trends and doing the analysis of the trends much faster than a human. But again, don't forget that we still use AI, but we don't necessarily accept everything. We still need to check and recheck because, as you know, like humans in the calculations, AI may also make some errors, and it will always depend on the commands that we are going to write or give to the AI. So sometimes it's not maybe the AI itself, it may be the commands that we are using, but we may also, we cannot exclude the fact that maybe the algorithm of AI is not, again, optimally written. And this is why I told you at the beginning of the presentation, we are looking into more accurate, faster, much better algorithms and, of course, I would say AI applications. Then another, I would say, the domain or field is about the data management. We talk about having a big data in a database, and then we start to question the database. But we don't question by talking with the database. We are going to write scripts where once read by the database is going to give us tables. For example, I would like to know the effect of my drug on fever, or I would like to know the effect of my drug on, again, loss of memory. So here I'm going to just, again, I can of course write the scripts and go over the data using any database like SAS or SPSS, and then I will be able to look into the results, the graph, and then to do the interpretation as well. It will take some time. I would say lots of time, because there are so many parameters. It's not just fever. Okay, we may have a fever, but the fever may depend on a type of infection. Maybe this is some type of genetic response of an animal, or sorry, here a human that is now I would say pushing the person to have a type of sign or symptom. So we don't know exactly all of the confounding factors when we are going to look into the results. This is why, since it is very complex, at this level, having a tool like AI will allow us to look into not just one or two parameters, or to compare them or to assess them, but to look into confounding factors that will affect different results that we may obtain from clinical trials. So another, I would say, a use for AI is about the source data verifications, where we usually again have a data, but the data may have been entered incorrectly. Sometimes there are errors in the lab values, in the lab ranges. Sometimes we just miss a dot or a decimal point. And by missing these, even from the computers as well, we may now have some issues and discrepancies in our analysis that will end up giving us a wrong result for making a decision about keeping a drug on them, I would say, submitting a drug submission or not. Okay, so having accurate information. So here again, AI is a perfect tool, an assistant here, of course, again, in order to review the list of all of the data that we receive, to look into the consistency of the data, and then this is what we call the source data verification, or even the data verification. We can also use AI for study design, because maybe we are having two groups of patients, but we should maybe look into having a third group where we may also test our drug with a competitor's drug, or maybe with a food, or maybe with a cosmetic, or maybe with a vaccine. And then we will see that just since we are doing one study, it will be even much more interesting, scientifically of course sound, that we also have a third or fourth group of patients being exposed to a different dose of a drug or to other drugs or products. It will give us a much better understanding of the drug efficacy and safety profile when we will go to the market, because in the market people will not just take our drug, they're going to take other products as well. So maybe by doing a study now, adding some type of important, I would say, point, and to test our drug against an existing drug as well, we may now get much better information about the safety profile of our drug. And this may come from suggestions that we may receive from AI. Now we can also look into using AI for creating different forms that we use in clinical trials, where we are looking into, we call them data collection sheets or case report forms, where we add all of the information from the patient, all of the lab results, MRIs, I don't know, biopsies, any result that we get before a treatment, after the treatment, or even after the first visit, after treatment, second treatment, third treatment. We do have several case scenarios, but overall, it will allow us to make or design a very good data collection sheet or an electronic case report form. We can also look into the study data tabulation model, or SDTM, where we can again ask the AI to propose, to give us again a table which is much more comprehensive in a faster, I would say, time than what we may do. So AI is helping us again for fine-tuning as well, doing things faster, comparing more, maybe looking into more confounding factors as well. Now another topic which is interesting is about the trial management. So selection the site, we can give some information to an AI and then to say, look, we are having 6 sites. These are clinical, I would say, hospitals, for example. These are all of the information about all of those sites. Now we would like to test this drug for this indication in these specific patients. And we asked AI to say, okay, based on the information, please justify and then let us know which of these sites is the best in order to do the study. And then the AI is just going to go over writing a comparative study about each and every site, and then proposing you at the end, again, what would be the optimal, what would be the optimal, I would say, design. Okay, so this is what we can do with AI. So now let's go over the clinical research. This is a phase where we use animals, okay, or in vitro. It means in vitro, not in living animals, or we test our drug in vivo. It means in living animals. So here what happens is that the AI is being used in the early stages of research, impacting subsequent clinical trials by enabling more efficient and effective preclinical research protocols and data analysis. So this is just in a nutshell how we can use AI, and again I already talked about that in the previous slide. We can also look into using AI to design a clinical trial. We would like to test a drug efficacy and I would say efficacy and safety, but again, as I told you, we would like maybe to need to compare our drug with an existing drug, maybe with 2 or 3 different drugs. Maybe we would like to see if our drug can be used in a combination with 3 other treatments. So we are now going to add all of the treatments, all of the adverse drug reactions related to each of the treatments, and we're going to ask AI to give us a justification based on the literature, published literature, and to tell us that based on what we have in the literature, if, for example, there would be any drug-drug interaction between our drug and the existing drugs or combination therapies that exist already in the market. So now we are going to be able to change the design of the clinical trial. We are going to have not only 2 groups or 3 groups of patients, we are going to have 5, 6, 10 groups of patients where we are testing our drug at different doses. We also test our drug when given at the same time with another drug. Our drug again in another group with 2 other drugs, with 3 other drugs that are on the market, and then it will allow us to look into the efficacy but also the safety profile of the drug once the drug will be on the market where people are already exposed to a combination therapy. So you see, it's very, very interesting to look into how we can use AI. Again, I would like to let you know that we are working on AIs. We are having different applications. We are having, again, even the processing power is changing. The algorithms are changing. The codes for programs are changing as well. So we may see faster, better, more accurate, I would say even processing softwares and hardwares as well. We also have different ways that we are going to, again, write or program those algorithms that we use. So here I leave it on a side. This is really technology that we use. I'm talking about using a technology and how we use that technology that is evolving in our work. So now let's go over the recruitment and enrollment. Here we need to know in each study who are the patients that we need to recruit for a study, because we need to have patients who may have a disease condition, but some of them, they may have other conditions that are going to be, again, some confounding factors that are going to hide the real value or efficacy profile of the drug. So what we do is that we are going to use AI. We are going to give, again, different patient characteristics to AI. We are also going to write down what we are testing with our drug, and we are going to ask AI to do a comprehensive, again, comparison in between patients and their medical history, and then to tell us that based on what we would like to test for the drug, which medical history, which of these patients, among these patients, are those who will be able to allow us to really find, without too many confounding factors, the real effect of the drug or the real safety profile of the drug. Then we have the conduct of clinical trials, where, as I told you, we are going to have several visits. Imagine here on the table on the left, you see all of the tests or procedures that we have to go over, and in the second and the next columns, we are looking into different visits. So we have a screening visit, we have the baseline visit, we have different days of visits, weeks or months of the visit, but you see each and every of these boxes is going to have a data, and this is just for again, one patient. And each of these boxes, when we look into the height assignment or weight assessment or urine drug test or HIV hepatitis screening, we are going to have not one data, but maybe hundreds of data. So this table is representing hundreds of data for one patient over the study. Now imagine that we are going to have 5,000 patients. So we really deal with the big data here. Of course, we can always have online electronic data captures. We can have online, I would say, technologies that we can use. However, using AI, using the algorithms from AI, it can also allow us to fine-tune the way that we conduct a clinical trial, so that we don't miss any visit. If a patient is missing a visit, what we are going to do. If a patient is, for example, coming and they're having some issues for missing a visit, what we should do. We are going to be able to use, of course, all of these different features that AI technology can give us in order to be able to conduct a clinical trial in an optimal way. We can also use AI for doing the analysis of clinical trials. Don't forget that we are not looking into only 2 points. We may look into a trend. For example, here we are having the mean systolic blood pressure and its standard error for 2 drugs. So we give a drug, okay, and then we give a drug, for example, the blue one on the top or the red one at the bottom. We are going to give to 2 populations of patients 2 different drugs, and we are going to follow the treatment over 3-4 years. You see, this is a trend, and this is dealing with hundreds of patients. And what we see here is that by using AI is going to allow us not only, of course, to draw these, not only even to do the statistical analysis, but also to tell us or even to explain to us in one or two paragraphs what would be the beneficial effect of the drug in two populations using two different drugs over 3 years. And now don't forget that this is just one study. In one study, we may be using several drugs, several hundreds or thousands of patients, and we may even need to do much more analysis. So AI can help us to do the analysis, but also it's going to accelerate it, and it's going to give us much more information that will allow us to make the conclusions based on, I would say, the real facts, if our drug has the safety and efficacy profile required by Health Canada, so that we can register the drug on the market. So the artificial intelligence, in a nutshell, it will depend on an IT department. Okay, of course, you may also have using AI online, but you can also find hospitals or different institutions adopting AI using only their own data. So you can limit the access of AI to your own data, and then you will be able to look into your own data, and then to go over the information, and then to do the analysis. Here again, we can look into data coming from patients that will then go to the physicians, go clinicians, and then we are going to again be able to do some statistical analysis that will then allow us, of course, to develop models as well, but to prepare all of those different packages for the approval of the drugs and to send them to regulatory agencies. So here, as I already talked about, we can also look into the drug design. This is where we are going to have several drugs, and we are going to see, okay, which one is the best one that we'll be able to use for a specific disease. We can also, of course, look into the patient retention and data collection. So the machine learning techniques are being used to improve participant retention and reduce the trial burden for participants using passive data collection techniques. Okay, we can also look into the regulatory compliance, where we would like to know, okay, what are the documentations that we have to prepare in order to submit that to Health Canada. So here we can also use AI that is going to give us, again, not at 100% of course accuracy, but it is going to give us some indications to where to go, how to find those documents, how to complete them. And of course, it will not be able to replace a regulatory affairs professional or a clinical research professional, but what we are doing here is again to use AI as an assistant, as an entry level, okay, a place, as a place where we are going to be in the front of a gateway, and we are going to now ask the gateway or the assistant, okay, where I should go, which department, which ministry, for example, okay, or which office or which directorate I have to go, and this is where again we can use AI. And of course, what are the future use of AI? This is going to be in healthcare services or health service management. It can be in predictive medicine, it can be on patient data and diagnostics, and it can be on clinical decision making. Okay, so I would like to thank you so much again for joining me today, and of course now I'm going to again close the presentation, and again I just want to thank you so much for your attendance. Thank you, my friends.